So I want you to imagine you're a young, relatively unknown actress. It's 1976.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right. And you walk into an audition room for the remake of King Kong.
Which was, I mean, arguably the biggest blockbuster in production at the time.
Exactly. It's massive. And the legendary producer, Dino De Laurentiis, he takes one look at you.
Oh, this is such a brutal story.
It really is. He turns to his son, who brought you in, and he says out loud, in fluent Italian, "This is so ugly. Why did you bring me this?"
Just devastating.
Right. But now, imagine standing there, looking this Hollywood titan dead in the eye and apologizing to him in perfect fluent Italian for not being beautiful enough for his movie.
It's just a staggering moment of, like, pure, unadulterated confidence.
Yeah.
She essentially told him, I'm sorry, I'm not as beautiful as I should be, but this is what you get.
That is Mary Louise Streep. Or, as you and the rest of the world know her, Meryl, welcome to today's Deep Dive.
Got to be here.
Our mission today is to look at this really extensive, up-to-date biographical profile of Streep. We want to decode the actual mechanics of what we call the Streep magic.
Right, because it's not just about listing awards.
Exactly. How does a self-described gawky kid from New Jersey with glasses and frizzy hair transform into the most nominated actor in human history?
That's wild when you frame it like that.
And more importantly for you listening, what does her journey teach us about resilience, empathy, and the profound power of pretending?
Because her journey is essentially a masterclass in human psychology. It really reveals how empathy can be weaponized. In the best possible way, I mean.
Weaponized empathy, I like that.
Yeah, to completely dismantle the established rules of an entire industry.
And to understand those rules, we really have to start with the foundational force in her life, which was her mother, Mary Wilkinson Streep.
She was huge for Meryl.
Oh, totally. Her mother essentially functioned as her first director. She instilled this radical, you can do anything mindset. She would look at Meryl and say, "You're capable, you're great. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything." And Meryl simply accepted that as an undeniable fact.
What's fascinating here is how that early, unshakable foundation really shaped her philosophy on art and truth long before she ever stepped in front of a camera.
Oh, for sure.
You see this vividly when she was just 12 years old. She was taking formal opera lessons, and she clearly had the technical vocal talent to pursue it.
Right. She was genuinely good.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
But after 4 years, she just abruptly quit.
She just walked away from a clear, natural talent. Why?
Well, because she realized she was singing material that she didn't genuinely feel. She didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Even at 12, she possessed this acute awareness that technical skill was entirely useless without psychological depth.
Wow. At 12.
Yeah. She couldn't just hit the notes. She had to find the emotional truth anchoring those notes. If she couldn't feel her way through the performance, she just refused to do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you take her mother's relentless confidence building and combine it with this absolute demand for emotional truth,
Right.
it's like she was being outfitted with a very specific, invisible, emotional armor.
That's a really good way to put it.
And it turns out she was going to need that armor immediately.
Yeah.
Because that Italian clapback in the audition room, it wasn't just a funny anecdote. It was proof of an ironclad self-worth.
Exactly.
And she weaponized that exact same self-worth just 3 years later on the set of her breakout film, Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah, this is where she truly upends the dynamic of 1970s Hollywood.
Oh, totally.
She's cast opposite Dustin Hoffman. She's playing a woman who leaves her husband and young child. But the original script, it painted her character, Joanna, as this one-dimensional, hysterical villain.
Just a terrible mother trope.
Right. It was written through a purely male lens.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially using her as a flat obstacle for Hoffman's character to overcome.
And Streep reads the script, looks at the director, and just says, no.
Just flat out no.
She argued that this was completely unrepresentative of the real complex reasons women were facing marriage breakdowns and custody battles at that time.
Yeah, she wouldn't stand for it.
So she sits down and successfully advocates to completely rewrite her own character's pivotal courtroom testimony. She shifts the focus entirely to a woman's desperate need for autonomy.
Right, and she did this while navigating an incredibly hostile environment.
Oh, I mean, Dustin Hoffman was famously using these intense, often antagonistic method acting techniques on her.
He was furious at her interference.
Wait, I have to push back on this for a second. Was she actually right to do that, though?
How do you mean?
Well, from a production standpoint, taking over the writer's job and completely derailing your Oscar-winning co-stars process, that sounds like a director's absolute worst nightmare.
Well, it usually is.
So what gave a relatively new film actress the leverage to step completely out of her lane like that?
It's a fantastic question. And it really speaks to her undeniable brilliance once the cameras rolled. She justified stepping out of her lane by delivering a performance that elevated the entire film.
So the results basically spoke for themselves.
Exactly. She wasn't acting out of ego. She was acting out of a responsibility to the truth of that woman.
Right.
She recognized that if she didn't infuse a necessary feminist viewpoint into that courtroom scene, the movie would just fail to resonate. And Hoffman actually later admitted that while he hated her guts initially, her obsessive, tireless pursuit of the character's truth is what made the film a masterpiece.
She forced them to see Joanna as a human being, not just a plot device.
Yes.
And the reward for that sheer tenacity. She wins her first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress.
Which is incredible.
It is, and I love this detail. She notoriously left it sitting on the back of a toilet in the ladies' room right after giving her acceptance speech.
Which is just a perfectly grounded human moment amidst this massive meteoric rise.
So true.
But the demands she placed on herself, they only escalated. Just look at her preparation for Sophie's Choice in 1982.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She didn't just casually adopt an accent to play a Polish survivor of Auschwitz. She meticulously mapped the phonetics.
She really went all in.
She did. She learned to speak English and German with a Polish accent. And she learned to speak conversational Polish at the same time.
It's like playing three-dimensional linguistic chess.
Exactly. And the psychological toll was devastating. For the infamous choice scene, a moment so agonizing it's hard to even discuss, she shot the entire gut-wrenching sequence in a single take.
Just one take.
One take. And when the director asked for another, she flatly refused.
She drew a hard boundary.
She did. She understood that she had accessed a level of emotional trauma in that single take that was so exhausting, so dangerously deep, that she could not safely replicate it.
Wow.
She gave him the truth once, and that had to be enough.
And it won her the Best Actress Oscar.
Rightfully so.
Now, you would logically think that winning multiple Oscars and being universally hailed as the preeminent dramatic actress of your generation makes you invincible.
You'd assume she holds all the cards.
Right. But as we move into the 1990s, the Hollywood machine proves that it eventually comes for everyone, especially an actress turning 40.
The infamous 40-something wall.
Yeah.
It's a structural economic reality of the industry. The studio model in the early 90s relied heavily on male-driven action blockbusters and young romantic leads.
And so a 40-something dramatic actress was viewed by studio executives as a depreciating asset.
Precisely. The complex leading roles for women in that age bracket simply evaporated.
But true to form, she didn't just quietly fade into the background.
No, she did not.
In 1990, she delivered the keynote address at the first national event for the Screen Actors Guild National Women's Conference. And she used that massive platform to publicly drag the film industry.
It is a huge moment.
She called out the steep decline in women's roles, the glaring lack of pay parity, and the systemic downplaying of women both on screen and off.
She was diagnosing the economics of Hollywood sexism decades before it became a mainstream, hashtag-driven conversation.
Right. Way ahead of her time.
But, diagnosing the problem didn't fix her immediate reality. She still had to navigate her own career through this massive drought.
Right. And I kind of look at her career in the 90s like a legacy tech company.
I know, how so?
Like, say, a Blockbuster Video or a BlackBerry, a company that is suddenly forced to pivot when the market completely shifts.
I don't see that.
If the industry says, we don't buy serious dramatic heroines over 40, what do? You don't keep selling the same product. She intentionally shifted gears.
She realized that comedies actually offered older women a subversive kind of agency that dramas were denying them.
Exactly. It was a highly calculated, necessary survival strategy.
But the execution of that pivot was grueling.
Incredibly grueling. Just look at the black comedy Death Becomes Her in 1992.
Oh, that shoot.
Yeah, it's well documented that this was a physical nightmare of a shoot. It dragged on for 7 months.
Wow.
She was dealing with entirely new, heavy special effects technology, and she developed severe allergies to the extensive prosthetics they glued to her face to age her.
Which is just miserable.
She even joked that the makeup made her look closer to 70 than 54. The process was so genuinely miserable that she swore she would never do a heavy special effects film again.
But the brilliance of her 90s pivot is how she eventually took that industry ageism and used it as creative fuel.
Yes, exactly.
By 1995, she takes the lead in The Bridges of Madison County, directed by Clint Eastwood. Instead of starving herself or getting surgical procedures to look like a stereotypical Hollywood ingenue, she deliberately leaned entirely into middle age.
She actually gained weight for the role, didn't she?
She did. She channeled these voluptuous, grounded European film stars like Anna Magnani and Sophia Loren.
I love that.
She set out to prove that a middle-aged woman living a seemingly ordinary life in Iowa could be a complex, deeply sensual, and incredibly bankable romantic heroine.
And it worked. It was a massive critical and commercial triumph.
It really was.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that grueling pivot in the 90s where she had to scrap and fight for relevance, it laid the reinforced concrete foundation for something completely unprecedented.
Oh, for sure.
She didn't just survive into her 50s and 60s. She became a mainstream, global box office megastar.
She effectively conquered the commercial blockbuster space at an age when most actresses were historically forced into retirement.
Just look at that back-to-back run in the mid-2000s. In 2006, she crafts the terrifying, soft-spoken, imperious fashion editor Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada.
Iconic.
That character becomes an instant cultural icon. Then, 2 years later, she pivots a full 180 degrees to become the overall wearing, singing lead in the ABBA movie musical Mamma Mia.
Which is just such a wildly different vibe.
Right, and that film casually becomes her biggest commercial hit ever. She'd even earned a Grammy nomination for the soundtrack.
The elasticity is just staggering. And it brings us back to the core mechanic of her genius, which is her ability to be a complete chameleon.
Yes.
We see her master the incredibly specific British received pronunciation to play Margaret Thatcher in The Iron Lady, which won her a third Oscar.
And we see her earlier work developing a highly localized, hybrid Australian-New Zealand dialect for A Cry in the Dark.
And people constantly ask her about the technical side of this.
Oh, all the time.
During a Q&A in Belfast, someone asked her how she manages to reproduce all these different accents so flawlessly. And she replied, slipping effortlessly into a perfect Belfast accent, by the way, with just 2 words. She said, I listen.
I listen. It sounds overly simple, but it represents a profound psychological framework.
It really does. Think of it like a master musician.
Okay.
An amateur musician just plays the sheet music in front of them. A master musician actively tunes their instrument to the resonant frequency of the specific room they are in.
That is such a great analogy.
Thanks. Streep isn't just mimicking vowel sounds. She is undergoing a temporary ego death. She empties herself out completely so she can absorb the humanity, the rhythm, and the worldview of the person speaking. It is an act of radical empathy.
I want you listening to really think about that for a second in the context of your own life.
Yeah.
How often do we actually listen like that? How often are we just quietly waiting for our turn to speak in a conversation, preparing our next point, instead of emptying our ego to truly absorb someone else's reality?
It's a completely different way of moving through the world.
It requires an intense vulnerability. You have to be willing to let someone else's truth overwrite your own for a moment.
And she shows zero signs of stopping. If we look at her current era, heading into 2026, the momentum is unreal.
Oh, it's crazy. She took a role in the 2nd season of Big Little Lies without even reading a script.
Which is unheard of for an actor of her caliber.
Right. But she did it simply because the author named the character Mary Louise, which is her actual legal name.
That's hilarious.
And she completely broke character in a hilarious alien abduction sketch for her Saturday Night Live debut in 2025.
Oh, I saw that. So good.
And she's currently attached to voice Queen Butterfly in Pixar's 2026 film Hoppers. She's working on a Joni Mitchell biopic, and she is officially reprising Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada too.
It's just an unparalleled level of professional longevity. But what's crucial to understand is that all this deep empathy, this active listening, it doesn't just stay trapped on a soundstage.
Definitely not.
She actively translates her understanding of human vulnerability into concrete, real-world power.
Absolutely. She leverages her immense industry clout to force structural change. Philanthropically, she has been a massive benefactor for the National Women's History Museum.
She's given them so much support over the years.
She famously donated her entire $1 million salary from the Iron Lady directly to the museum. And just recently, in 2026, she made another 7-figure donation.
And beyond the financial backing, she uses her cultural capital for labor protections. She was a foundational collaborator in the 2018 Time's Up initiative.
Right.
She worked with 300 other women to establish legal protections against harassment in Hollywood.
And more recently, in 2023, she was a key, highly visible signatory on the SAG-AFTRA strike letter.
Yes.
She threatened to walk out to ensure actors were protected against the unregulated rise of artificial intelligence. She constantly uses her platform to shield the vulnerable.
Now, Streep's immense platform naturally pulled her into the broader political arena as well.
It did, and looking objectively at the timeline in our research, there are distinct moments where her craft and public policy collided.
Right?
And just as a quick framework for you listening, we're simply reporting the factual context of these public moments to understand her trajectory. We are not endorsing any specific political viewpoint. We just want to present the sources fairly.
Precisely. The goal is to see how her philosophy of empathy translates to a global stage. A prime example is the reception to her portrayal of Margaret Thatcher in The Iron Lady.
Right. Following the film's release, Thatcher's former advisors and friends were highly critical of Streep's portrayal. They called the performance inaccurate and biased against the former prime minister.
But then, when Thatcher later passed away, Streep issued a public statement that really attempted to balance the historical ledger.
She did. She explicitly noted Thatcher's hard-nosed fiscal measures and the pain they caused.
But in the exact same breath, she praised Thatcher's undeniable personal strength and grit in navigating a fiercely patriarchal political system.
She was capable of holding two conflicting truths about a person simultaneously.
Exactly. Another major intersection occurred during her 2017 Golden Globes acceptance speech for the Cecil B. DeMille Award.
Oh, yeah. This was a moment that absolutely dominated the national news cycle.
It was everywhere.
She used her uninterrupted time on a global broadcast to criticize then-President-elect Donald Trump. She specifically focused on a moment on the campaign trail where he appeared to mock a disabled reporter.
And the core of her argument in that speech rested entirely on her life's work understanding human behavior.
Right.
She argued that when a powerful public figure operates with an instinct to humiliate, it is profoundly dangerous because it filters down into everyday life.
Yeah, her thesis was that bullying from the top essentially gives cultural permission for everyone else to do the exact same thing to the vulnerable people in their own lives. So what does this all mean?
Good question.
When you step back and look at this massive, decade-spanning career, from the gawky kid in New Jersey to the clapback in Italian to rewriting scripts and challenging the Hollywood machine Streep's legacy isn't really about the record 21 Oscar nominations.
No, it's much bigger than that.
According to Streep herself, it is about recognizing that acting is fundamentally a survival skill.
She has this brilliant clarifying quote where she explains that women are inherently better at acting because historically they have had to be.
I mean, think about that.
For millennia, the ability to convince somebody bigger and more powerful than you of something he doesn't know has quite literally been a way for women to survive.
She takes the trapdoor, the concept of the illusion, and she completely reclaims it. Acting isn't a parlor trick used to deceive an audience.
Not at all.
It's a vital, necessary tool used to navigate power dynamics and force the world to acknowledge your truth.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. There is a specific line from Streep in our research that perfectly encapsulates this.
Okay, let's hear it.
She says, pretending is not just play. Pretending is imagined possibility.
Pretending is imagined possibility. Wow. It really makes you wonder about our modern cultural obsession with the idea of authenticity.
Exactly.
We are constantly bombarded with the advice to just be ourselves, right? To be aggressively authentic to who we are in this exact moment.
Right. Live your truth.
But if Streep is right, maybe clinging so tightly to who we are right now is actually what's holding us back. Maybe the most authentic, courageous thing you can possibly do is to pretend to be the person you want to become tomorrow.
I love that.
To put on the armor, step out of your lane, and act as if you already possess the power you are trying to build.
It's a challenge to actively imagine a better possibility for yourself and then have the audacity to play the part until it becomes real.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary, shape-shifting life of Meryl Streep. Keep imagining those possibilities, keep truly listening to the world around you, and we will catch you next time.